I'm Sue Roffey. Most of my work is in education, but I'm also very concerned about what's going on in society. So I'm also a social activist with a particular focus on the common good and our shared humanity. One of the things that I'm engaged with at the moment is that I'm one of the many co-authors of a book called Creating the World We Want to Live in, Positive Psychology for the Future. And I have taken a lead in doing some of the draft chapters for that. And one of those is on society. So I've been reading a lot about what makes for a good society. And it comes down really to one overwhelming thing, which is about the level of equality in a society. And it's not necessarily about everybody having a lot of money. It's about having fairness and having people taking care of each other. After the Second World War, lots of things were introduced into Britain, which were around making sure that people had a national health service. They didn't have to worry about their health and being able to afford treatment. We had an education service that's free for everybody. And a welfare state system, which is a system that enables people to be looked after if they fall on hard times. And what's happened in the last couple of decades is that all of that has been undermined. We have less social mobility now than we've had for a long time. And one of the things that I find really hard to see, particularly in these days of austerity, is that somewhere along the line people are being blamed for being poor and not having the wherewithals that they need to live a decent life. In comparison, in Denmark, there are 9 political parties and none of them would consider doing anything that undermines the welfare state. Denmark has one of the highest taxation rates in the world, but people think it's a good price to pay for having a civilised and decent society where people look after each other. And there is more safety, there is more trust, and there's better relationships in Denmark than in many, many other countries. It's been rated as one of the top 3 happiest countries in the world now for 7 years in a row. I think a lot of what we're talking about is what the dominant discourses are, what people are actually talking about in conversation. And this is led to some extent by our politicians, as you can certainly see of late, but it's also led by what the newspapers are saying, those newspapers that take a particular line. And what happens in Denmark is that people are quite comfortable about the fact that they pay high taxes because that's the right thing to do. Here, there's something called belief in a just world, which is a theory which says that everybody gets what they deserve. And this is the basis of the American dream. And what it says is that, if people work hard enough, then they will actually be successful. And although there's an element of truth to that, it takes no account whatsoever for where and to whom you were born, the accidents that happen in people's lives, everything. Those people and many people in America feel that the state is stealing their money if they pay high taxes. And it's just a different way of thinking about the people that we share this world with. My own view is that we need to have far more equality in our societies in order to make it a safer place that has more well-being for everybody. I think that there's a number of different strands to that. One is that people are believing a whole bunch of lies that were perpetrated particularly by the Leave movement. One of the main reasons that Europe and the European Union was established was to promote so many ties between people that it undermined any chance of conflicts between countries developing into war. So that's a really important reason for having the European Union. There are also plenty of regulations that certainly companies might object to because it gives workers more rights, it gives them more equality, it gives them human rights protections, and nobody has been talking about what that means. we know that if we crash out of the European Union, it's going to be hardest on the people who are the poorest. Because of the issues with austerity, people think, well, it must be the migrants who are to blame, or it must be the Europeans who are to blame. And that discourse has been encouraged by those people who want Brexit. Now, the people who are leading Brexit, can I just say that they are all wealthy old Etonians who, I am wondering, have they got the well-being of the British people in the forefront of their mind about leaving? Are they concerned about whether or not they're making more money and having more opportunities for wealth producing for themselves and for their buddies? Or are they saying, no, it's going to be better for people? It is clearly not going to be better for people. And one of my great frustrations is that some of the people who are saying, yes, we've got to leave, yes, we've got to leave, are being utterly hoodwinked about it because it's going to hurt people. That's not the way it needs to go. We need to actually be thinking, yes, if the European Union needs changing, then we need to be changing it from the inside, not from the outside. I think it's tragic what's been happening in terms of the polarisation, and what I'm hearing all the time at the moment is let's get Brexit done, without any conversations about really what that's going to mean from people. And that's not just from the Brexit supporting side, it's from the other side as well. I mean, we did not have any real clarity from the Remain supporters about what this would mean and any real good reasons for staying in Europe. I mean, I think one of the things that it's worth saying is that we're talking about, this is what the people voted for. And there is very little said that 48% of people did not vote for this. That's nearly half of the country did not vote for this. And the polls since the referendum have indicated that more people would have supported Remain than Leave. So what I'm interested in is what are the motivations of those people who are pushing the Brexit, particularly the Brexit no deal, forward. And at the moment we are being promised all sorts of things as sort of electioneering sweeteners, if you like so many hospitals, living wage, etc., etc. And to be perfectly honest, I don't believe a word of it, because there's been so many lies and people will do anything to keep power. And it seems to me that it is all about power. Even the government of national unity that they have been talking about, why isn't Jeremy Corbyn thinking first and foremost of the biggest issue that there is in our country and stepping aside for somebody that everybody would agree with who could lead such a government of national unity, because that's what needs to happen. And this guy has never been particularly ambitious or about and having power, so somebody around him, in the same way as people around Boris, are actually leading them up the garden path and telling him what to do and how to do it. And I think that's a real shame. I think it is such a huge question. I mean, the thing, obviously, and this is something that I have, marched for and supported, is that we have a people's vote. And I think that maybe we can have a people's vote which is Remain, Leave without a deal and Leave with a deal, and people mark it 1, 2 and 3, and we have a transferable vote system, which is one of the things that they have in Australia. And that seems to me that would be a way of actually stop it being quite so polarised as it has been. On the much bigger question of what we actually need for our society, is that more than anything else we need to stop being so nasty to each other and actually blaming each other for things that are actually not of those people's making. Poverty and homelessness and all of those things are not of those people's making. By and large, it's things that have happened to people, and we need to sort of be encouraging. I've already talked at length about what we need in our education system. I've written books about what we need to promote, better relationships, but we need to be thinking about how we can be kinder to each other. And in terms of the language that people are using, there is room for a much better emotional, literate discourse. Because at the moment we have a discourse that shows very little emotional literacy, very little intelligence from a lot of people. I recently heard a response to Greta Thunberg's address to the UN on Facebook, in which somebody was saying brainwashed brat. And it's like, that might be his opinion, but there's nothing behind his opinion. It is simply abusive. And we have to stop that. And we have to be looking at what are the reasons that people are taking these strongly polarised views? Who is actually encouraging that? And we can certainly see that with some of our politicians, both in this country and in other parts of the world, where it suits their purposes that people are each other's throat. And I think that we need to be looking really clearly and well at ourselves to say, how do I want to be treated in this country? How do I want to know that I have a safe and kind community in which to bring up my children? And that's going to be the same for everybody else as well. And how do we make that happen?